Have you ever pondered the fact that our slavish devotion to science and its excesses has massively contributed to the devastation of this planet and most of the species upon it? When you look past the jargon and fancy formula, you will see nothing but constructs. These constructs, these made-up models of reality, bear little resemblance to truth, to the actual real science as it pertains to the creation of the world or the universe. Real knowledge is never given out to profane profiteers. They have to invent silly science to explain that which they don't understand. But there is a knowledge, older by thousands of years, having a profound and correct understanding of the wonderful workings of creation. This knowledge is not based on wild imaginings or back-to-front observations like so-called modern science, nor are there bitter arguments over the validity or truth of this knowledge. We will also come to understand the real meaning behind the unfolding climatic events and what they mean for our planet and all upon it. These events have little to do with the human-induced greenhouse effect. This confusion is entirely due to the simplistic pseudo-observations and conclusions ranted out by the dozen by so-called learned scientists. Look at them all, trying to shout down their opponent's theory, thrusting their own forward as the only rational choice. Yes, we have turned our planet into a junkyard. Yes, the air stinks. Yes, we are all sicker. And yes, we had better clean up our filth. But none of this is causing one jot of planetary change. Much larger events are unfolding that are beyond the influence of humanity, that will have profound physical effects on our world and all upon it. There is no avoiding these coming events. There is only preparation and education. The greenhouse effect is a lot of hot air, much of it coming from the mouths of mid-brained scientists. Agreement, it seems, is the one credible thing lacking amongst these supposed men of science. Much of this ranting sounds as though it originated in kindergarten. So naive is it. But firstly, let us begin at the beginning. Let us examine the question of gravity. Isaac Newton was the first modern scientist to describe the law of gravity, and simply and basically he believed and postulated that the power of gravity resided in a planet, and it was an attractive force that held all things on the planet, and that it was gravitational pull that held planets in their orbits. This is a simple explanation, and it is explained by today's scientific community, and it is as it is taught in schools all over the world. But there is an older knowledge kept secret from the world's profane seekers of fame and fortune. This knowledge has a different view of cosmogony and cosmology, almost an opposite explanation, if you like, from that of our so-called learned scientific leaders. The major points of difference may be expressed as this. There is no such thing as gravity inherent in the Earth. The Earth has no power of attraction. The moon does not move the tides. These may appear to be startling assertions, even laughable ones. But I hope to convince you that there are other plausible explanations of how creation is structured. Now let us start at the beginning, at the very early stages of Earth's formation. In the beginning, there was no matter where the Earth is today, just empty space. So I want you to picture in your mind's eye this empty space in space. Now, a tension field, polar opposites forms. This field is a positively charged and negatively charged field, and it is invisible. We know they can exist because that is what a black hole is. And for our purposes, we shall name this primary vortex. You see, these opposing poles create an invisible rotary motion in space. This primary vortex is a vortexial rotation. This great invisible rotating force field begins to draw some atomic particles, just like the whirlpool in your sink when you pull the plug will draw a matchstick into its sphere of influence. This pre-matter is then captured by the vortexial rotation and driven to the centre of the vortex. After a great time period, they begin to form a rotating molten ball of plasma, our Earth, in its embryonic stage. As this molten matter grew, it attained mass, or weight if you like. This we can call the secondary stage of vortex. Now, as the concentration of matter increased, so did the mass, and this had the effect of beginning to slow the rate of spin of the fiery globe. This slowing had the effect of allowing a crust to form, which was further helped by the interaction between the two great formative elementals of Genesis, also drawn into the vortex. These are the oxygenesis and the hydrogenesis elementals. Of course, we know that their interaction creates water, the fountain of all life. But they also help cool the globe, allowing a crust to form. Now there was a molten ball of plasma encased in a crust or mantle. We can call this the third stage of vortex. Now picture again in your mind's eye this image of a spinning ball within a ball. Now today the great vortex still turns the Earth at a speed of 1,000 miles an hour at the Earth's surface. Yes, you are spinning through space at that speed, yet you don't notice. This vortex extends a distance of 30 times the Earth's diameter, which is approximately 12,756 kilometers. So the vortex would be about 42,000 kilometers wide. The swiftest part of the Earth's vortex is about 15,000 miles this side of the orbit of the Moon. The Moon also has a vortex, but being an open vortex, it does not turn the Moon, but it still creates a vortexial pressure of 1/7 of the Earth's. All things that enter into the vortex are instantly driven to the centre, in this case the centre of the Earth. Therefore, if you throw an apple into the air, the vortex will drive it to the centre. If an airplane's engine stops in flight, the vortex will immediately drive it to the centre. Of course, the crust gets in the way and things hit the ground. But the drive is relentlessly to the very centre of that molten core beneath our feet. As can be proved by experiment, there is no magnetic attractive power of gravity inherent in the Earth in any way, shape or form. Prove? Well, simply do your own experiment. Take a piece of paper in your hand and drop it. It falls to the ground. Take a piece of wood and throw it up in the air. It falls to the ground. Next, take a stone and do the same. Now the scientists would have you believe that the power of gravity, a magnetic force inherent in the Earth, attracted these things, pulled them downward until they hit the ground. Well, that's what it may seem to a simplistic thinking scientist, but a more fanciful theory is hard to imagine. To explain it simply and scientifically, there is absolutely no way known that a magnetic force can exert any influence on paper, wood, stone, or any other substance known to man except iron. How Isaac Newton could reach such a conclusion that an apple could somehow be magnetically influenced is unbelievable. That so many supposed intelligent people have accepted it and propagated this error is mind-boggling. Airplanes are made mostly of aluminium. This cannot be influenced by magnetism. No, all this time this wrong theory has been taught as gospel. But, like so much of so-called science, it is patently wrong. Yes, there is a magnetic field surrounding the Earth, but that field has nothing to do with the fact that things fall to Earth. The fact is, all objects having mass are driven, pushed down to Earth as the vortex tries to drive them to its centre. This error has given rise to other silly suppositions, turned into false truths and fostered on the eager to learn young as infallible truth. One glaringly wrong example is that the moon influences the tides by its gravity. Well, this absurd notion needs to be dispatched immediately. The real story is simple. The moon cannot exert some kind of magnetic pull on water. What nonsense even to suggest such a thing. Again, water cannot be magnetized. Try it yourself. But even if we imagine the impossible to be true, there are other factors that make the whole proposition absurd. Take, for example, the fact that the moon is many thousands of miles away from the ocean, which lies right on the Earth. The Earth is many times larger than the moon. Even if there was gravity, the Earth would easily overcome any influence the moon's puny force could exert. In fact, the Earth would pull the very moon down, so unequal are the relative bodies in size and mass. No, that's not how the tides work at all. The real story is this. Because the moon has mass, it creates a footprint in the atmosphere between it and Earth. A depression in the air, if you like. As the moon rolls on by in the sky and apparently causes the tides to rise and fall by gravity, it is easy to again draw a simplistic conclusion from an apparent effect. No, the moon is not attracting the ocean, but it is depressing it. Remember, water cannot be compressed, so the footprint actually displaces the ocean. So we get a kind of bow wave ahead of the footprint, which we can call high tide. And the following or filling of the footprint is low tide. No pulling at all, just pushing. It may even be argued that the measure of constant pressure called atmospheric pressure is in fact the real gravity and is the 27 pounds per square inch pressure of vortexial rotation. This, of course, also explains Newton's second law of motion, the fact that all objects, regardless of size, fall at the same rate. Because of these errors of judgment by so-called learned people, a construct of false dogma has arisen, a kind of back-to-front view of the world where appearance is taken as reality, and errors of science are taught to our young as gospel fact. Modern science's description of reality is a farce. I have purposely kept this explanation very simple and short so that it is easily understood by the ordinary person. I have deliberately used no jargon to confuse, no scientific sleight of hand, just the facts as known for thousands of years. I hope you find food for thought in the foregoing, as it is but a starting point for more revelations about the nature and function of this wonderful cosmos we find ourselves in, and the future we are facing as a species upon planet Earth. For one thing must clearly be said and made plain. Mother Earth is not, cannot, and will not be threatened by mankind. There is no danger for the Earth. It is humanity that is in peril. It is we who face a very sorry future, not the planet. Remember this: regeneration in the absence of humanity would be the simplest of tasks, an automatic, complete and speedy accomplishment.